All right, I think we're recording now. So as a reminder, we've got some new folks, but just as a refresher for how do we handle leads and what do leads mean and what do these categories mean and where do people need to go? Let's just look at this as a refresher. So just starting at the top, all leads automatically come into new when they register on the website. And from there, it's up to you to move them into the other category. As a reminder, it's recommended to contact new leads as soon as possible. Aim for a 5-minute time frame when they register because it goes down precipitously the percentage of converting them for waiting. So just remember that. So they come in as new. Everybody comes in as new. After you attempt to contact them, we need to move them to another category based on what we know about them. So after your first attempt, if you do not make successful contact, or didn't learn enough about their needs, but I'm saying if you didn't contact them at all, they go into qualify. And then we start the qualify drip. Remember, we have 3 versions: good email and phone, good email, bad phone, or home phone, and then bad email, but good phone number. If the leads this says 3 to 6 months out for nurture, that's really when you kind of know where they are, but they're a little bit further out. Okay, hot is going to be anything less than that. We typically aim for a month. Use your own judgment, but in your mind, you should know where these people are going to fit. So hot are going to be ready right away. You should have them under contract in the next 2 or 3 months. Nurture is the next step after that, so 3 to 6 months, and then watch is 6 months plus. Okay, but if you've had a conversation with someone, they should be moved to one of those categories. Okay. Qualify, again, is only if you haven't had any two-way communication with them and know their time frame. Otherwise, you put them into that. Archive is for qualifies that you never contacted throughout the qualify drip. So all that means is you've never had any two-way communication with them, or they never said, get rid of me, I don't want to hear from you, or opted out or anything. Now, if they have done that, they go into trash. If somebody tells you, I'm working with an agent, or you have bad email and bad phone number, or if they straight up say, I'm not interested, please don't send me anything, they go to trash. Any questions about that? Pending and closed should pretty much speak for themselves. Make sense?
Yes.
Also, just as a reminder, if somebody's not on a drip that's automatically populating to-dos for you, you got to add those to-dos. Right? Otherwise, they're going to get lost. You know, it's one thing to have 100 leads when you start out, but when you get to 1,000, you're never going to remember those 40 or 50 watches to call, or those, 35 nurtures to call. So if you don't set those to-dos, remember what I always say, all you did was waste the time that you invested initially to reach out to them if you don't have a plan to reach back out to them. Right? Any questions about that? From anybody? Make sense? No? Okay. Kind of the other thing I wanted to just do is share this. This is just kind of a visual of the same thing that we just did, right? So new come in, bad phone and bad email, trash it and forget it, right? New, not contacted, qualify, start our drip. Already on our drip. Completed the drip plan and still not qualified, archive. And then the archive drip should start automatically as well, right? If they respond, you move them to the pipeline. When they respond or you connect, when they're in new or qualify, you move them in the right category. Watch 6 months plus, nurture 3 to 6, hot within the next 90 days. And then when they go under contract, you move them to pending, and then that's funny, cha-ching, close. Is that helpful? Just as a refresher and a reminder of where these people go.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
I rarely have people in my hot category because I was taught if you're going to write them the next 30 days to sometime in the current quarter, they're hot. Just really try to be realistic about where these people are in their timeline when you put them somewhere. If you've got 15 people sitting in hot, well, then you should be banging out contracts left and right. So if you're not, they may very well be a nurture, not a hot, and that's okay. In fact, I would argue that it looks worse for your business if you've got a bunch of people in hot and that continues to grow without closing them because it looks like we can't close. You know what I'm saying? So be really strategic about where you place these people. If they register on the website, even if they put, cash purchase, ready to buy in 1 to 3 months, they're not hot. You haven't talked to them yet. So just keep that in mind. I don't even pay attention to what that registration says because it's just a field. I think people fill something out just to get to the photos that they want to see. So again, just be realistic about where these people are placed. It doesn't look bad if you don't have a bunch of hot people.
Yeah, you're not being judged based on that. You're being judged, if anything, on how you're converting people and moving them along. And then when you get them to hot, closing them. And I think, you make an excellent point. It's better to be a little judicious in that and conservative versus just putting a bunch of folks in hot so it feels like you got a lot of business, because you don't want to set yourself up to feel like you got a lot going on and then not be able to convert anything, right? And to Brandon's point about the registration questions, yeah, you're not going to put anybody in hot based solely on those answers that they fill out when they do that. What you use that for is to drive your conversation when you get them on the phone to make sure that we know where they are with LP Mammal, right? And one step further than that is remember what the hot lead in Boomtown translates to in Sisu. When you get them to hot in Boomtown, a hot lead in Sisu or a hot lead in Boomtown is what you add to your pipeline in Sisu, because that's what we talk about on our weekly calls. That's the primary point of that call, is for us to have some one-on-one time, but also to discuss these leads that you consider hot, because if we're discussing the same lead for 4 weeks in a row, then maybe they belong in nurture. But it's also to project your business, right? So it's twofold. A, are we moving them along? But B, also, okay, well, what does my quarter look like? Because I've got 6 hots here or whatever. Or what does my next 30 days look like? And that's all to help you project what your business is going to look like, so you know where you are on pace with your goals, right? That's what it's there for. It's like leading indicators to show us if we're headed in the right direction. Any questions or discussion about that?
I was just going to say, I definitely have had many hots turn into nurtures or watches.
And heck, I mean, and Juliana, full transparency, it's going to happen to everybody, because you're going to have a great conversation with somebody, and you might have their pre-approval letter.
I was about to say, I've had showings by our agency and they still nothing came of it. So yeah.
That stuff happens, and that's fine, because we're basing it on what we know now. So if somebody tells you or is doing everything to make you believe they're hot, and you get them in your pipeline and then that changes, you can just back them back out. It's okay. The important thing is that you're meeting people where they are, and then you're entering the to-dos appropriately in Boomtown, so you remember to follow up with them. So you don't lose somebody who you thought was a hot because they moved back to nurture and then we didn't do the to-dos the right way and follow up with them. Does that make sense? All right, so as a reminder, these 2 documents are here in the Boomtown section on the Agent Resources page. The lead categories and the leads life cycle. Any questions about any of that? Or does anybody have any other Boomtown related questions that you think it would be helpful to go over?
So if you've got somebody that's on an archive drip, and some of my archive drips are like bad phone number, but then the to-do would be like call. And I'm like, well, I can't call because it's a bad phone number. They've never opened an email from day one. They're not opening e-alerts in 298 days. So I feel like there's just no chance of contacting them. So do you move them to trash? Do you just take them off a drip and let them sit in archive? Like what do you do for that?
Remember the sheet we just looked at. You never move them to trash unless all the contact info is bad, or they've told you I have an agent or leave me alone.
Okay.
You just let the archive drip run, and if they've got a bad phone number and it's a phone number option for the drip, or it's a call option for the drip, just delete the to-do.
Delete it. That's what I've been doing. Okay.
Janina, worst case scenario, take 2 seconds and send one of the draft emails from the drop down menu in Boomtown if they don't have a good phone number. I mean, I think it was Charles the other day, a couple of you have said recently where I just got an appointment request, or who was it yesterday? I think.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 6
I've never
months.
heard of this person, and they just reached out after 6 months. I sold a house at Rachel Kendall Team to a lead that Doug had when he first started. They had been in our system for like 5 years. You just never know. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if, you know, the odds are they probably won't get back to you, but if you get one person a quarter that does that, well, then you're talking about serious money at the end of the year when it adds up.
Okay, so just keep them in archive then. Okay.
Just keep them in archive. Don't ever trash them unless the
Who'd you sell a house to? That was an architect.
Carolyn Evan Fouts.
I didn't get it.
Well, you
Oh.
you didn't vote for the third one.
Messed
So
up.
the other thing is,
Dorothy.
try to be as quick as you can with those new leads when they come in. Obviously, you know, the stats show that it drops significantly if you don't connect with them after the first 5 minutes. But as soon as you make that call, log a call, go ahead and put them on the drip, and then get on that e-alert. Set that e-alert up. Go through your leads. It would be really good, especially for the new people. Do an audit of all of your folks and see who is and who isn't on an e-alert. And if there is an e-alert, or if there's not, go in there and set one up. And don't always use, you know, if they're in there looking at 15 properties or whatever, or one or two, you know, just kind of play it by ear a little bit, but you can also go in there and see which properties they've looked at. For as an example, if they've looked at $2 million homes, and then everything else that they're looking at, they've looked at 15 other homes. It is 2 and 3 bedrooms between 275 to 350. Don't do the system generated e-alert, because those $2 million homes are going to throw their e-alert off. Go in there and edit it a little bit to correspond more closely to what it is that they're clearly paying more attention to.
And when he says don't use it, you can still hit the system e-alert to generate it, but just go in and edit the price range in that example.
Question on that.
Yeah.
So
And also, whenever you go through and audit your,
Go ahead, Felicia. Hold on, Charles. Sorry.
whenever you go through and audit your drips and you start turning them on, just be on notice. The next couple days, your to-dos will skyrocket. So you have to make sure you have time to get through those.
Absolutely. And as a reminder too, when you're auditing, look for the red drips, because if you got a bunch of red drips, people aren't getting the qualify stuff. And with several of you last week in going through our calls, people had drips that were paused, qualified drips that were paused. So you got to stay on top of that and check it, Charles.
when you guys are making your alerts, let's say somebody, for example, they're like, hey, you know, I kind of want to be in and around Raleigh, but maybe some of the outlying areas. Are you using the map feature a lot with that, or are you just clicking count?
Dude, I love the map feature. I think it's
I like
amazing.
I use it more.
I was mostly using the map. I just didn't know like what everybody else does.
I think it depends. To me, it depends on the person. I don't drop a whole lot of maps unless like I know exactly the area they want to be. But if they say I'm kind of wide open, then I'll select a bunch of areas. I'll use the area a lot.
Well, I like for like a lot of like people up north or out of state will say, I want to be on the coast, but they don't necessarily know like Emerald Isle, Topsail, you know, Southport. So I can just do that whole like stretch of coast to try to find something.
Oh, you know what? And that's a good reminder. You can save an e-alert template like that. So Juliana, and for everybody, that way you don't have to draw that map around the islands every single time that comes up. Remember that and save it.
I talked to a lady yesterday who's from New Jersey, and she said that she just wants to be anywhere in North Carolina. And I was like, okay, but her budget was 30 to 40,000. So I was like, okay.
Yes.
So you're going to put her in Burgal?
Maybe you can find her in a
Is she finding a house or a piece of land?
The shanty.
A house. She wants a 2 to 3 bedroom and 2 bath home between 30 and 40K. And I was like, I could get you in the
I know.
ghetto.
Bless her little cotton.
Try to get her to talk to her lender. You never know what she may be sitting on money. She just may not understand what it costs to live here.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. There's something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it is.
Hey, one thing that I had a question about was the watch drip specifically.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but if I get someone and they say they're like a year, 2 years, 3, 5 years out, I'll set a to-do to start the drip in like 6 months,
Yeah.
just because I feel like if you put them in watch and hit that thing right away, you sound kind of stupid, because you might send them an email, in 15 days, and they just told you like, I'm a year out.
I've done that myself. I think that's a great plan. You set it to start the drip. That's a great idea.
So the other question would be, and I'm not trying to make more work, but do you think it'd be beneficial to have like a plus year out drip, watch drip?
I think there might be in the Boomtown drips an extended watch strip. I would just say go in there and search, and you see if you see one that fits, and see what you think about it. I'm not quite ready to build nurture or watch strips for us yet.
Well, that's like, I just set to-dos for those instead of putting it on a
You
drip.
can do that too. Or I think it's a combination. The thing is, it's making sure you're staying on top of it. So whether, you understand and you set the expectation with them, hey, you know what? I get it. I'm going to follow up this fall, and you set up a to-do, and then you follow back up with them in the fall and say, all right, I'm going to get you on, I'm going to start sending you some information on a regular interval, since, you're halfway to being ready to get started now. And this will help kind of just set the stage. Or you just do it on your own, Juliana. That's fine too.
Nate, I do a lot of my watches the same way. If I'm having substantial conversations with them and I know what their timeline is, I won't even put them on a watch strip, because I don't want to have a good conversation with that guy and then 3 days later he gets the system text that says, hey, I'm setting up my calendar for the weekend. Are there any homes you want to see? So, but I make sure that I've got very specific to-dos for that person, and then that's what I do as best as I can to make sure I knock out at a minimum all my to-dos that day when they're due. That way I can continue to move that conversation forward.
And that's why I don't have a company watch strip, because I think it's better to handle that stuff personally. As a reminder, that is a good point as far as doing to-dos and everything. As a reminder, if you've got somebody you can consider hot, you should be talking to them at least once a week.
I think a lot more. Like if they're hot,
Probably more than
if you're
that.
hot, you're probably talking to these people like
Daily,
every couple days.
probably, yeah.
At the most, like at the minimum.
So I would just use that as a guide, for your own mind. If you consider somebody hot,
Let's talk about a couple things we can do. If you've got a bunch of hot people that are legitimately hot and you're looking for a way to speed them up, make sure you've got that e-alert set up to where that daily e-alert, if it's daily or instantly, make sure you're receiving that as well. That way, if something new pops, if that person's hot and they're ready to go, they're just waiting on the right place to hit the market. Get in front of them as soon as it comes across. Now, I don't do that. I don't know what the MLS is like in regional, but I try to look like I'm working all the time. So I'll set up a system e-alert for MLS coming soon for my buyers here in the Triangle. So when it hits coming soon on MLS, I get a notification. I'll look at the house, and if I think the house looks good, I'm going to call them and be like, hey, I think this may be the one you're waiting for. Those are some things that you can do as soon as something drops to get in front of those hot people if they're legitimately hot, and say, we need to get on this now before it becomes a bidding.
everybody get what he's saying with setting up a coming soon alert through your MLS, so that not through our Boomtown site, but you can set up searches in MLS and have those come to you and your clients. But yes, my best practice always for my hots are add my email to their e-alert, set it to instant, and then when something comes across, if I think it's good, I'm texting them the link on my phone. I'll open up the house on my phone, copy the link, and say, hey, this one just popped up. Have you seen it yet? I think we should take a look, or something like that. And that's the value you're providing. You know what they're looking for. You know they're ready to make a decision. They might be at work. They might not check their phone for 2 or 3 hours at a time, or even more than that. That's you staying on top of things for them. And that's how you know, our goal when we get somebody to hot, it's not just to celebrate, hey, that they're hot. It's to, okay, well, let's write a contract. And that's how you do it. You're providing that value, getting that stuff to them instantly.
I remember what I was going to say a while ago, and it's really simple, but it can make a big difference, especially for the newer agents. If you're getting transfer leads or people are passing leads back and forth, please make sure you go in the e-alert and change the subject of the e-alert. If it's got someone's name, the biggest way you can make yourself look like a numbskull is if Felicia transfers you a lead and Juliana's sending the email and it says homes from Felicia. You know what I mean? Just really small, simple stuff like that make you stand out.
That's a great point too. And also as a reminder, maybe for newer folks, if you're not doing this, I always have my name in the e-alert. Homes for Bob from Doug or whatever, because especially if it's people you haven't gotten in front of yet, it's just reinforcing that, hey, I'm here and I'm your agent, right?
Yeah, that's what I do too. I'll do like homes for person, and then I'll put with Megan from the Ocean Air Realty.
Better. That's great. And kind of just one more thing about leads and lead flow and everything. Every single lead, regardless of where they come from, go in Boomtown. You get a sign call, you put them in Boomtown and log the information. You get a Zillow lead, you put them in Boomtown and log the information, in addition to adding the notes in Boomtown. You know, you got a Sphere lead that you're talking to, put them in Boomtown. Any questions about any of that? Cool. Great discussion. Anybody else have anything they want to add as far as, you know, tracking leads, moving them in the right category, to-dos, or any questions about any of that? Well, good. I thought it would be helpful just to kind of have a little bit of refresher, especially about categorizing folks based on their timeline and the information we have about them. And, you know, as a kind of a final reminder too, a hot lead really is everything on LP Mammal answered, right? Everything. That's really a hot lead. Now, there might be a circumstance where you've got one or two things on there that aren't necessary to kind of get you there because maybe they're moving really quickly, or you know some stuff that you don't need to know some stuff. But that's really what makes somebody a hot lead. You have every LP Mammal question answered, right? Don't just trust that they say, hey, I want to make a decision this month, or hey, you know, I need to be in a place in August. Well, that's great, but if you don't have a pre-approval letter, you hadn't met them yet, they don't know exactly where they're looking. It's great that their timeline is quick, but are they really a hot based on everything else they have to do to get ready?
Hey, Martin.
And Martin. And that's just, you know, that's making sure, A, that you're providing them the value so they know what they have to do to make the decision they've said they want to make, but also, and not even, I don't even feel bad about this, but it's so you don't waste your time, right? And I also don't want you to, you know, misapply your energy thinking that something's going to happen, but it's not, because, you know, expectations are misaligned. Any other questions? Conversation? Cool. All right. Well, this was great. Like I told you, I'm going to be working on some things this week. And ideally, I'll be able to review the updates to the forms, and we can talk about those for our best practices meeting for tomorrow. Anybody have anything else? Okay. Thanks for jumping on. Everybody have a great day and a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
So you're done meeting in person.
I know. That was good. That was a good conversation.
We're going to have tomorrow.
Good.
So it's just on.